Pi Network has been one of the most talked about crypto projects for years. Millions of users are waiting for one major event, a listing on Binance or Coinbase. But despite enormous community demand, that moment still hasn't arrived. And this raises a very important question. Why are two of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world still keeping Pi Network off their platforms? Pi is already available on several major exchanges, including OKX, Gate, MEXC, and Kraken. So why haven't Binance and Coinbase followed? Is it because of regulation, technical concerns, token distribution, or is there something else happening behind the scenes? Today, we're breaking down the biggest reasons behind the Pi Network, listing debate, and what could potentially happen next. Welcome back to Showbonverse, your source for crypto news and future technology. Let's get into it. Binance and the Pi listing vote. Let's start with Binance. Back in February 2025, Binance held a community vote asking users whether Pi should be listed. The response was massive. Around 226,000 votes were reportedly cast, and approximately 86.8% supported a Pi listing. On the surface, that looked like a huge signal. The Pi community clearly wanted Binance to list Pi, but there was an important detail. The vote did not automatically guarantee a listing. Binance still had to conduct its own evaluation and make a final decision. And despite the overwhelming community support, Binance did not proceed with a Pi listing. Since then, there has been no confirmed public commitment from Binance that Pi will definitely be listed. This is one of the biggest frustrations for Pi users, because from their perspective, the community already gave Binance a very clear answer. But exchanges don't make listing decisions based only on popularity. They have to consider technical, legal, compliance, and market-related risks. And that's where the Pi listing debate becomes much more complicated. What about Coinbase? Then we have Coinbase. Coinbase has taken a much quieter approach. Unlike Binance, Coinbase has not held a public community vote for Pi. There has also been no clear public announcement confirming that Pi has entered a Coinbase listing process. And this creates another question. Why hasn't Coinbase shown the same level of interest? One possibility is that Coinbase follows a highly structured asset review process. An exchange isn't simply asking, do millions of people want this token? It also needs to consider questions such as, is the technology sufficiently transparent? Can the asset meet compliance requirements? How is the token distributed? Are there regulatory concerns? Can the exchange safely support deposits, withdrawals, and trading? And what kind of market risks could come with the asset? So even if a cryptocurrency has millions of supporters, that alone doesn't guarantee a Coinbase listing. Bybit's controversial position. Another important part of this story is Bybit. In early 2025, Bybit CEO Ben Zhou publicly criticized Pi Network and described the project as a scam, referencing a warning from Chinese authorities dating back to 2023. Pi Network disputed that characterization. This became a major controversy within the crypto community. Pi supporters strongly rejected the allegations, while critics continued to raise questions about the project's history, structure, and token distribution. The important point here is that different exchanges can reach very different conclusions about the same cryptocurrency. One exchange may decide that the risks are manageable. Another exchange may decide that the risks are too high. And that helps explain why Pi can be available on some platforms while still being absent from others. What could be holding Pi back? So let's look at the major issues that continue to appear in the Pi listing debate. Number 1. Technical transparency. One criticism sometimes raised by Pi critics concerns how publicly auditable the project's code and infrastructure are. For a major exchange, technical due diligence is extremely important. Before listing an asset, an exchange needs confidence that the network works as expected and that deposits, withdrawals, and other integrations can be handled safely. Any uncertainty can make a major exchange more cautious. Number 2. KYB and compliance. The second issue is compliance. Large exchanges operate under increasingly strict know your business, anti-money laundering, and regulatory requirements. Pi Network has gone through its own ecosystem verification and KYB-related processes for businesses. But exchange listing is still a separate decision. Binance or Coinbase would need to evaluate the asset under their own internal standards and regulations applicable to the jurisdictions where they operate. That means community pressure alone cannot force a listing. Number 3. Token distribution. Another major discussion is Pi's token distribution. Critics have raised questions about concentration, supply distribution, and how future tokens entering circulation could affect the market. This matters because exchanges want to understand the potential supply dynamics of an asset. If a large amount of tokens can enter circulation, that could potentially create selling pressure. And that leads us to another important issue. Number 4. Token unlocks. Upcoming Pi token unlocks have become another major topic in the market. When additional tokens become available to users, the circulating supply can increase. If demand doesn't grow at the same pace, additional supply can potentially put downward pressure on price. For an exchange considering a major listing, supply dynamics are extremely important. They need to understand whether the market can absorb additional tokens without extreme volatility. Number 5. Regulatory risk. And finally, regulation. This may be one of the biggest concerns for major exchanges. Crypto regulations continue to evolve around the world. Binance and Coinbase operate across multiple jurisdictions, meaning regulatory exposure can be a major factor when reviewing any cryptocurrency. If an asset creates uncertainty around classification, compliance, or legal exposure, an exchange may simply decide to wait. But it's important to make one thing clear. Neither Binance nor Coinbase has publicly confirmed that any one of these issues is the specific reason Pi has not been listed. These are factors discussed in the wider listing debate, not confirmed explanations from the exchanges themselves. What is happening with Pi's market? Now let's talk about the market. At the time of the report we're discussing, Pi was trading around $0.09, while trading volume had fallen significantly. That is important, because exchanges don't only look at the number of people talking about a cryptocurrency, they also care about actual market activity. Liquidity matters, trading volume matters, price stability matters, and market depth matters. If an exchange lists an asset with insufficient liquidity, traders can experience large price swings and poor execution. So Pi's challenge isn't simply getting attention. The bigger challenge is demonstrating strong, sustainable market activity. What is the Pi community saying? Inside the Pi community, opinions remain divided. Some Pi supporters believe Binance is avoiding Pi because the Pi ecosystem has a massive user base and could potentially become a powerful competitor in the crypto industry. Others believe Binance may simply be waiting for more regulatory and technical clarity. There are also users who believe the issue is primarily related to KYB, token distribution, and compliance. But there is currently no verified evidence proving that Binance is deliberately avoiding Pi because it sees Pi as a competitor. That's an important distinction. Crypto communities often create theories when major exchanges don't explain their decisions. But theories should not be treated as confirmed facts. Could Binance or Coinbase still list Pi in the future? Absolutely. The fact that a listing hasn't happened yet doesn't necessarily mean it will never happen. Exchange policies can change. Regulations can change. A project's technical development can change. Liquidity can improve. Market demand can change. And if Pi continues developing its ecosystem while addressing concerns around compliance, transparency, distribution, and market liquidity, the situation could look different in the future. But we should also be realistic. A Binance or Coinbase listing is not guaranteed, and investors should never buy a cryptocurrency simply because they expect a future exchange listing. So here's the bottom line. Pi Network has one of the strongest and most active communities in crypto. The Binance community vote showed enormous support for a potential listing. Pi is also available on several major exchanges, but Binance and Coinbase remain the two big missing names. The reason may involve a combination of technical due diligence, compliance, token distribution, regulatory exposure, liquidity, and market risk. However, neither Binance nor Coinbase has publicly confirmed that these are the specific reasons behind their decisions. For now, the Pi community is waiting, and the big question remains: will Binance or Coinbase eventually open the door to Pi, or will Pi have to continue growing without them? What do you think? Should Binance list Pi right now, or should it wait for more clarity? Let us know your opinion in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and and turn on notifications for more Pi Network, Bitcoin, and crypto news. This is Shabanverse. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Disclaimer, this video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice.